Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Nile from NoCode.tech, and we're back again with another interview. Now, this time we're going to be speaking to Marian Voicu from Procesio. Procesio is pretty interesting. It's a tool that actually, unlike most of the tools that we've spoke to so far, is not quite launched yet. They are just sort of launching this week. And they are, interestingly as well, the first no-code tool that I've spoke to who are based out of Romania in the EU. So we'll dive in and find out a little bit more about the tool and what it can do. So Marian, thank you very much for joining me. And let's start with the basics. Can you tell me, just in a nutshell, what is Procesio? What can it do?
Hi, Nile. Thank you for having me. So Procesio is a technology. It's a platform, integration platform as a service for the individual and organization that want to integrate software faster, up to 5 times faster, based on our recordings and numbers, that want to process the data, but in a different way, different from the classic coding, more on the configuration side, more on low code, no code side. But Procesio it's tailored for the technical person, the people that know what's a software, and they know how software works. So our persona, the users that we are targeting, are a bit technical.
Cool. That's really interesting. And so I've obviously done a little bit of chatting with yourself and other members of the Procesio team, and you guys have got quite an interesting kind of backstory. Can you tell me a little bit about how kind of I think number one, how Procesio came about, but also how did you sort of get involved, and how did you come to be the deputy CEO of Procesio?
Yes. So Procesio it's a technology built like a startup inside the Ringel company. And the Ringel company, it's a software provider for energy industry. It's a top provider in Romania. So back in 2018, the company needed a way to scale internationally, a better way to scale their software, an ERP and CRM product. But they needed a way to faster adapt to regulation, to other country regulation, and they started to investigate and to made POCs and proof of concept with configuring rather than writing code. And pretty soon we figure out that this is more than just our need. We're not sketching just our need, but it's a global need, the need for software that cannot be covered. So I don't know if you are aware, but it says that the current need for software can be covered not even in the next 50 years with the current way of building software. So the world needs a way to supercharge software development. And that's no code and low code for us. And we started to build this technology, Procesio. And Procesio was born somewhere in spring 2020, when I joined this new venture of Ringel. Back then, Procesio didn't even have a name. We just call it No Code Pass, Project as a Service. But soon it came to this process name, like from the process, because we are covering business processes. So this is Procesio covering business processes. For this year, we are more on the backend side of software development. We are the integration platform as a service, and we are also have a big vision for our technology. We will add up abstractization layer, and we'll move it towards more non-technical person, more business analyst. But this is like our long-term vision and our long-term roadmap, starting with 2022.
That's really interesting. So you guys are you've come from quite a traditional sector at first. You've got this Ringhill company. That I guess is almost the Procesio parent company. You guys have been a consultancy or an agency, sort of supporting a really traditional, energy sector. And it sort of sounds like you've had an observation that lots of people have had, in terms of, you're in these big businesses, you're doing a lot of the same stuff over and over. You start to realize that the software can be quite you can replicate it essentially. You can find a way to sort of commodify it and sort of then replicate it over and over. But what's it been like, sort of, going from almost this kind of traditional industry, as we say, to then coming into the no code space? Because I guess as much as you'll probably sell this to companies or help large businesses, the no code space is obviously really, really varied. I almost would probably refer it to being kind of prosumer, where you can absolutely get sort of consumer level people who have just googled, okay, I want to build an app or an integration and find your tool, right through to professionals, to consultants, to large enterprises. What's it kind of like being sort of changing from the kind of company you were to the kind of company you are?
So in enterprise, there is a huge gap between software development needs and the available human resources. And the development power cannot meet this need. The signs in enterprise are visible. Statistics said that more than 80% of digital transformation projects are delayed or canceled. Companies are struggling to adapt to market changes. To develop software nowadays is more and more expensive. It's it's a luxury to develop software. Developers are a rare resource, a scarce resource. So all these aspects concluded in a global need for having a better way of building software. And I truly believe that no code and low code is that way. And this is how we switch from classic software development to build a technology for software developers, a technology that will empower them to build software faster based on their mindset. You still need the mindset of software developer, but we empower the software developers and software development companies with a technology that will enhance them to build up to 5 times faster based on our measurements.
It's really interesting, I like that idea of, or I don't like it, but I acknowledge the truth of that idea that development is still sort of a luxury. There is so much to sort of do and build in the software world. I mean, we are really scratching the surface, even though the stuff like the .com boom, that was 21 years ago now, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting actually how far we've come, and yet how far we've still got to go. And so, again, clearly you guys haven't launched yet, but beyond the energy sector, presumably, what kind of companies do you see using Procesio? And in particular, you've sort of talked to this idea that given that developers are a scarce resource, this is a way of more people developing. But you've also mentioned the tool's technical. So, what kind of companies do you see using the tool? But then what kind of people within those companies are actually going to be using the tool day to day?
Okay, now, so Procesio is a technology for software development companies. We are our business model is business to business. And we are focusing on building partnership with software development companies that build software for enterprise segment, that build software for their beneficiaries. So we are a tool set for software development companies, software consultancy companies, software integrators. So this is our approach, and we are building partnership. We are giving them a technology for them to build software for the beneficiary.
Okay, that's interesting then. So I guess you guys are you guys are sort of arming the agencies and the consultancies and giving them the tools they need to then go on and do this. And so in those agencies and those consultants, is it going to be the people actually using the interface? Is that going to be technical people, or is that going to be semi-technical, non-technical?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that playing out?
Both. They will be semi-technical, they will be technical, they will be developers. For me, technical person is not actually always a developer. I'm considering myself a technical person because I understand the software development, but I'm not a developer. I cannot write code. I can write some code, but not code for an enterprise app. But I was able to build a product, an application with Procesio as a catalyst. Actually, I integrated a data source. I've integrated an Excel file with a visual app, with a front end, built-in Webflow, also with a database, Airtable, and with a CMS messaging provider and email CMS provider. And all this I was able to build with Procesio as a backend. Frankly, I'm not able to build such an application by writing code. I don't know how, but I was able to build it with Procesio and integrating all these other no-code or the other technologies and tools.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what you're talking about around this idea that you're not a coder, but you're somewhat technical. I think one of the big things at NoCode.tech that we're interested in is this idea of at the minute you kind of have a very black and white notion of computer literacy, right? You're either non-technical, which means you may be able to browse websites and I don't know, do graphic design or whatever it may be. Like you can do all these computer tasks, but you can't code. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have people who can code and who can work with databases and all this kind of thing. And to my feeling, there's got to be a skill set. The world needs a skill set, I think, in the middle, which is people who, maybe they can't code, but they can think in terms of computers. They know what a database is. They understand this idea of logic where, you have a branch where if something is true, if the sky is blue, then do this. If the sky is not blue, then do this other thing. I think we're just at the no code is kind of at the very beginning of this becoming a sort of skill set. But I guess it begs the question. So obviously you were able to go and sort of put that together. But how long did it take you, and how hard was it?
Awesome. Actually, it took me just one day to build something that a developer would have built in like 5 days. A good developer, not just any developer. So it took me one day to do it. So I'm pretty amazed about myself. So I'm pretty happy about what I was able to accomplish.
Yeah, definitely, I bet. And tell us a little bit then, about your background. So we know you sort of joined Procesio, but what's your career look like, and how technical has it been before you got into the no code space?
Actually, my background is around software development, but on the creative side, on the analytics side, on the user experience side. So my background is on product experience, user experience, and since the beginning, I was in the architecture side, design side of the software. But I was always interested about how to develop, how to write code. I've written some JavaScript, some HTML, some PHP at some point in time. I'm not a developer. I cannot write good code, but I know what's a function, what's a variable, what is a data model. So with Procesio, we are doing this. We are taking the development mindset and translate it into a visual approach. So a developer will be able to use their mindset. Actually, we received this feedback from an architect, a software architect. He said to us that it's familiar. Procesio is familiar to what I know about software development. So this is what we tried to accomplish, to be familiar to software developers, but also to give another perspective for less technical person to understand also software development.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so I guess in terms of Procesio itself and sort of bring to life for the audience a little bit about what the interface is like. So I've personally had a look at Procesio. I had a little bit of a look at sort of how it feels and what it does. And if I was going to compare it to tools out there today, I'd probably compare it to things like Zapier, Integromat. Or you have this kind of you've got this kind of canvas. Then you've got different actions like send an SMS or send an email, get data from Facebook or something that you can then drag and drop, and then you can configure them that sort of says, okay, take the data from Facebook, and if the data is like this, then send an email, and if it's like that, send an SMS. So, which is good. That feels kind of pretty familiar. I always think one of the problems with no-code tools is if you bring out a new tool and it doesn't feel like anything else, and it's hard to learn. But I guess it then obviously brings the question of, who do you see as your competitors in the space, and how do you stand out from them? What is Procesio doing?
Yep. So competitors to us are the integration platforms like Zapier, Integromat. But frankly, I do not see them as competitors, but to allies. The software development space needs a lot of tools like Zapier, Integromat, Procesio. And Procesio is built to integrate with any other technology, even though it's the classic technology, a database with an API above it, or a no-code technology, a low-code technology. It doesn't matter. We just want to integrate and to help help this software development space with tools. But we are taking a bit different as an approach. We have a twist. As I said, we are focusing on the development mindset for this phase of Procesio. We are focusing on technical and development mindset. And we are bringing tools that are familiar to them, like variables, data models, credential manager, API calls, configurable API calls. So we are doing a bit different. We are acting in the same space, integration space, but we are focusing on the more scalable aspect, or more on the more enterprise side of things. The user that needs a way to configure their own API call, not just taking something that's in the toolbox, but configure something tailored to them. And also we are adding a functionality called custom action. Custom action is actually dedicated to developers. So a developer can write code for an action in our workflow. And after that, he can use it in workflows, or can let other more not so technical person to use it in their workflow. So we are adding up a tailoring, let's say, a tailoring capability of Procesio. Anyone can adapt Procesio to their context.
Yeah, I love that. It's something I've only seen in a handful of no-code tools before, and a handful is probably more than I've actually seen it. This ability to build your own custom actions. It seems so obvious and so easy, but most no-code tools don't actually support it. The first time I used a sort of backend building no-code tool, actually something a little bit like Procesio, but from years ago, we had this ability to add these custom actions. They didn't need approval, they didn't need anything like that. It was safe, but you had to just write your own code and sort of put it in. And so, within a couple of days, I had built an integration to Stripe, to Firebase, to uploading stuff to AWS or Amazon Web Services. So, it was just like a different level of moving quick. Now, obviously, that's not accessible to non-technical people, but in a large organization, you're always going to have, I think, as you mentioned before, this mix of developers, this mix of business analysts, and if the developers can do stuff that lets the BAs or whoever else, move faster, I think you've got a really, really powerful, product. And is that something you guys see? Is that always going to be restricted to, if I build a bit of code in Procesio, is that restricted to my company, or are you guys going to have like a marketplace where people can get custom actions, or what does that look like?
We will have a marketplace. This is our strategy. The custom action was our strategy and our key aspect to growing, to scaling up Procesio. And actually, we are building Procesio with Procesio using custom action. Our actions are based on the custom action architecture, and also with custom action and with the template of actions, configuration, and process templates. We will build a marketplace sometime in 2022. we will focus also in a marketplace, on a marketplace.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And okay, so that gives us a little bit of a tease of what you guys are going to be working on in 2022. What else is going to be here for the future of Procesio? Obviously you guys are just launching at the minute, but what's your focus over the next kind of few months into 2022?
Our focus for 2022 is, as I said, the integration aspect of Procesio, integration platform as a service, integration functionalities, and we will add functionalities needed for the backend side of software development. So this is 2021 for us. From the 2022, we will start to adapt, as I said, abstractization layers. We'll focus also in a visual builder to add front-end on top of Procesio. But for sure, we will still focus on adding any type of front-end that our users needed on top of Procesio. As I said, I've added a platform, a front-end building Webflow on top of Procesio. In enterprise the space, they might have a dashboard or the reporting platform or the CRM ERP, and they will want to use that interface and integrate with Procesio. It doesn't matter. But for our focus right now for 2021 is the integration functionality.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you guys, today you're an integration platform. Tomorrow, presumably, you sort of have this idea that people could build a back end of an app, be that a web app, mobile app, etc., on Procesio. But then you guys also want to add a front end builder. So, rather than, I guess, than competing with the likes of Zapier and Parabola, you'll actually have a bigger offering that's more like, Bubble, Betty Blocks, these kind of companies. Is that correct?
Is that correct? But our backend approach and integration approach will still be in our backbone. We just want to bring Procesio more close to the non-technical person. But it's a progress. We need to take it step by step, and we focused now on the building blocks, the backend side, the technical aspect.
Yeah, I like that, and I think that's a solid approach to take. Especially in an enterprise environment, quite often there are different solutions for front ends. There's an existing dashboard, as you said, an existing CRM, etc. But equally, I think a lot of the and especially in an enterprise context when you've got an internal tool and not a customer facing tool, but a lot of the value, a lot of the real meat is in that back end part. 90% of the problem is solved by that. Now you just need a basic, decent looking interface on top of that. And I think that's why tools like Retool have grown so well. Like they have so much focus on that back end, but it's easy to drag and drop an acceptable, usable, hygienic front end on top of that. So that makes a lot of sense as an approach. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you guys, it's quite interesting to me. As I mentioned at the start of the call, I speak to a lot of tools on here who have been in the no-code space for a long time. Either the founders have always kind of been techies in the kind of consumer or prosumer tech space, or the tool's just been around for a few years at this point. But you guys are kind of interesting because you're quite a new entrant to the no-code kind of movement, and I also speak to a lot of companies who were here kind of before it took off. And whereas there's a kind of new breed of companies starting to emerge now that are launching this year, maybe launched very tail end of last year. So I guess the question for you is, how are you finding it? Like as a new entrant to the no-code movement, how have you found it? Kind of any observations on the community? Anything missing? What do you think of the no-code space?
Actually, the no-code space, it's a needed one for software development, as I said in our previous discussion. And we like it. That's why we started to build Procesio, because we researched this configuration approach, this drag and drop approach. We understood that there is a no-code movement, low-code, no-code movement. We start to investigate and we find our place. And we said, hey, this is for us. We will build a no-code technology for enterprise space. And having our founder as a more technical person than myself, I'm a semi-technical and more product-oriented. I think it was a good mix of experience. Also, we built a really powerful team, because I truly believe that we cannot do it ourselves. You as a founder cannot do it yourself. You need a team. You need someone to discuss. You need someone to back you up. So this was our approach, and we kind of see it like our vision is to empower anyone to build software, to Procesio to be something like a word processor or a spreadsheet or email. This is what we foresee for Procesio. And no code approach is that way for us.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and I think you've talked a lot there around. It sounds like as much as you guys are focused, or not focused, but you're aimed at the minute at people who are at least semi-technical, if not kind of fully technical. But it sounds like you guys are quite focused on bringing this to the masses. At the end of the day, you don't want to stay technical. Is that correct? Is that fair to say? Is that your strategy?
Yeah, our strategy is to bring Procesio to the masses in time. We always will be technical, because we are covering the enterprise space, and we will have technical capabilities, but we want to empower also enterprises to build software with the existing teams, with the existing technical and non-technical teams, because this is the pain point of companies, of enterprises. The development power that they have, the lack of human resources, and they need a way to be able to build software with whatever resources they have. So this is what we want to help the software industry.
Brilliant. No, I love it. I think it's a very, very noble mission. And of course, one here at NoCode.tech that, we feel we're on a similar journey of. It's about unlocking more and more software development in a software driven world. So I love that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you that we kind of ask every guest that we have here on. I was going to say on a podcast. It's not really a podcast. It might be eventually, but
I think it is a podcast.
Yeah, so somewhere in between, it's a visual podcast. But what I was going to ask you, obviously, you've kind of quite a varied career, and now that you're in this kind of deputy CEO role, I would absolutely consider you, an entrepreneur. So, what are kind of 2 or 3 things that you wish you knew, kind of before starting your entrepreneur journey? What would you tell someone who's just starting, and what would you maybe have done differently if you knew it now?
Actually, something that I kind of knew when I started this entrepreneurship journey, that it takes time, and it takes more time that you think it will take. And you as a founder, you need to know that it will take this more time, and you need to be aware that your estimates will be way off. Things will take way more than you will estimate. The big challenges that you will take will be more bigger than you expected, but don't lose it. Don't lose faith. Just embrace it. Learn from your experience. Start to estimate better, and take also big challenges. Don't forget to take big challenges. You need to take big challenges, because those will propel you. And also, you need to have, as I said previously, you need to have a supportive team. You cannot do it yourself.
Yeah, I love that, and especially around estimations. That's something I've struggled with a lot. NoCode.tech is a 2-person team, and so we have a lot to do. We have a lot of people every month that we've got to help out. But silly stuff. At the minute we're redesigning our homepage, and that you write that down. You sit and go, okay, I need to do the design. I need to build this part. I need to go get these images, and you kind of write it out, and it sort of seems like okay, that should be a 3-day job. But then you actually do it, and actually you spend half an hour going, maybe this bit doesn't work there. Maybe I need to move this. Actually, I forgot that because I've moved this page, I now need to go and build this. And quickly, these kind of small estimates you have can turn into something really big and long. I mean, when we were filming our no code university, I think we thought it was going to take us about a month. I think it ended up taking 4 or 5 months in total. I always kind of call it a 6 month period, but in terms of the actual filming, I think it was 4 or 5, and that's because when you're doing your estimations, you don't think about the time that your neighbour is going to be playing music, so you can't film. Or you don't realize that actually when you were going to explain databases, you completely forgot about this one relationship type or this or that, the other thing. So, I think it's a massive piece of advice for first time founders or entrepreneurs or even the people at any company really. MD doing work, especially in the digital space. It's incredibly hard to do in estimates, and I don't think people need to be too hard on themselves.
Yes.
But yeah, so look, super interesting. I am obviously this is Processio's launch week, but hopefully we'll get you back on the show maybe next year or something like that. Find out about kind of how far along you guys have gotten, and by then you might even have a different product if you're going to be adding front ends and whatnot. So super exciting, and best of luck with it. For the audience watching, where can they go to find out more about Procesio?
Yes, that's right. Actually, we invite our audience to join our launch event on August 11th, or make a visit on our website, Procesio.com. I think Nile, you will write this link in your video podcast.
Yep.
You can visit our social media pages on our Twitter, our LinkedIn, No Code Procesio. Search for No Code Procesio. Search for Procesio on LinkedIn. So search for No Code Procesio and Procesio.com, and you will find everything that you need. Also, the technology will be available on Procesio.app.
Procesio.app. Awesome, cool. Well, as you mentioned, we'll make sure that is written down in the section below, whichever platform you are watching this on. So, Marian, thank you very much for joining me. All the best with the launch and with Procesio, and we'll speak again soon. Thanks, and bye.
Nile, thank you very much.